Good evening. Welcome, everyone. This evening, we actually have four separate meetings that we'll go through. The first will be the Liquor Board meeting. We anticipate that will be relatively short. Then we'll move into our regular council meeting, followed by the Timnath Landings GDA, and finally the Timnath Development Authority. So with that, I will call to order the Tuesday, December 9th, Timnath Local Licensing Authority meeting. Ms. Garcia, will you take the roll?
Chairperson Robert Oxmacher.
Present.
Co-chair Luke Wagner.
Here.
Board member Jeremy Holt.
Here.
Board member Bill Jenkins.
Here.
Board member Lisa Lake.
All right, four members are present. Board member Lake's absence was expected, so we will proceed this evening. We have one item, Resolution 1, 2025, Series 2025, a resolution approving transfer of liquor license to Woo Street, doing business as Mine House Public, and this is a public hearing. Ms. Steffel.
Thank you. So this is a meeting of the town council sitting as the local licensing authority. And in that capacity, you are reviewing an application for transfer of ownership of a liquor license. Okay, this is for the liquor license that's currently held by the Backyard Bird, and it's for the location at 4650 Signal Tree Drive, number 1900 in the town of Timnath. And the applicants for the transfer are Woo Street, doing business as Mine House. The current license expires on December 10, 2025, and so after the transfer, they will have to apply for a renewal of that license, but that is an administrative process through the town clerk that won't come back through you. However, they're covered because they have a temporary permit that was issued when they first applied for this transfer. It was issued on October 30th, 2025, and expires in February 27th, 2026. So that gives time to also apply for the renewal of the license. The application has been reviewed by the town clerk, who has determined that the application is complete, and she has performed the required background check on the new owners and has determined that no prior criminal convictions were identified or pending charges. And the application fee has been paid. Now, when you consider a liquor license transfer, it is a public hearing. However, there are not many factors that you consider. Basically, you've already looked at when the first license was issued, whether there was a neighborhood interest in having a liquor license in that location, whether there were other liquor licenses that were already fulfilling the needs of the neighborhood. So at this time, you're only looking at whether the new transferee is acceptable. And acceptable is basically they can't be a peace officer, town police officer, an employee of the liquor board or inspector, someone under the age of 21, or someone who's not of good moral character. So, and good moral character would have come up if anything had been flagged in the background check. At that time, we would have walked you through what you can consider, because the statutes are very restrictive about what you can consider when you're looking at whether someone's of good moral character. But in this case, the background check has come back clean. And then there's also a requirement that the applicant must file confirmation that the prior owner has paid all of the wholesalers in full for any of their prior deliveries. And that piece, we're going to recommend that this be a conditional approval with the requirement that the transferee then file that paperwork with the town clerk to make sure that that piece is taken care of. So with that, the recommended motion will be to approve a resolution approving the transfer of the liquor license to Woo Street, doing business as Mine House, subject to the condition that applicant must file with the town confirmation that each licensed wholesaler has been paid in full by the prior owner of that liquor license. I believe that we have a representative of the new transferee here. So we're going to give them the opportunity to present anything they want to you. And then this is a public hearing, so we'll be opening it up to public comment.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Steffel. Good evening, sir. How are you? Good. Mr. Wu, I presume? Welcome. We're excited that you're here and excited to hear that hopefully you'll be opening up.
Yeah, so we,
Great. Is there anything that you would like us to know about your application?
not really.
Could you maybe tell us a little bit about your business and what we should expect when you open up?
Yeah, it's gonna be a Asian noodle house with tapas. So a lot of food's gonna have some pairings, mainly sake and wine. Basically, yeah, about it. We'll have dine-in, patio seating, takeout.
Sounds great. All righty. Well, with that, I will open the floor and ask if there's anyone present that would like to speak on this pending liquor license transfer. It doesn't appear that anyone has signed up, but I'll open the floor now and see if there's anyone present. Doesn't appear so, so now I will turn it to the board members. Does anyone have questions on this application? Okay. Very well. Ms. Steffel, I think you've run through the conditions quite thoroughly, and I don't see anything that jumps out as concerning. So at this time, I'd ask, is there a motion to approve the resolution approving transfer of the liquor license to Woo Street doing business as Mine House, subject to the condition that the applicant must file with the town confirmation that each licensed wholesaler has been paid in full?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the transfer signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, nay? It is approved 4-0. Thank you, sir. Welcome
you.
to Timnath.
Thank you very much.
All right. Then that will conclude our business as the Liquor License Authority. I will now call to order the Tuesday, December 9th regular Timnath Town Council meeting. Speakers Garcia, will you take the roll?
Yes. Mayor Robert Oxmacher,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Luke Wagner,
Here.
Councilmember Jeremy Holt,
Here.
Councilmember Bill Jenkins,
Here.
Councilmember Lisa Lake.
All right. 4 council members are present. We are expecting Councilmember Lake not to be here this evening. Her absence is excused. So I'll ask, are there any requests to amend the agenda this evening? All right. Seeing none. Great. Sounds good. So our next item scheduled is recognition of the Timnath Middle High School cross-country team, but they're not quite ready for us. So we will go ahead and proceed with the agenda, and I will begin by taking public comment. Public comment is an opportunity for members to address council on any matter that doesn't already have a public hearing. This evening, we have several items that do have public hearings, so if you'd like to speak on these, I'd ask you to wait until we call those matters. Those will be the Timnath Landing final plat, salary for council members, amendment to the International Fire Code, ordinance amending Chapter 4 of the Town Municipal Code, and then the budget. So if anyone wishes to speak on those items, I'd ask you to wait. But I will now open up the floor for general public comment. I see Mr. Redmond is here. We spoke earlier. I didn't think you wanted to address council, but I'll invite you up if you'd like to.
Good evening. My name is Patrick Redmond. I am a volunteer with the Greg Lopez for Governor campaign 2026, and I am here to listen.
Thank you, Mr. Redmond. We appreciate you being here. You picked a meeting. There's lots to listen to tonight. All right. I don't have anyone else signed up for public comment, so I will now just ask, is there anyone present that did not sign up but would like to address council? I see no one, so we can continue on with the agenda. We'll now move to the consent agenda, which consists of 5 items this evening. First is approval of the November 11th Town Council meeting minutes. Second is approval of the November 18th Special Town Council meeting minutes. Third is Resolution Number 67, Series 2025, a resolution consenting to a fee increase for Southwest Timnath Metropolitan Districts 1 through 4. Fourth is Resolution Number 68, Series 2025, a resolution consenting to a fee increase for South Timnath Metropolitan Districts 1 and 2. And fifth, Resolution Number 69, Series 2025, resolution approving a second supplement to the intergovernmental agreement regarding funds for the Timnath Landing General Improvement District. Council, are there any requests to pull any item from the agenda? And seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as read?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as read.
And is there a second?
Second.
Okay, before we take the vote, I will ask, do any council members have comment on the consent agenda?
Yes, I do have comments. So I'd like to direct my comments primarily to the Southwest Metro District, which in their request for a fee increase is asking for a 50% increase in maintenance fees, primarily, according to the letter that accompanied it, because of, quote, excessive irrigation water costs this past year. It's noteworthy that this 50% increase is well beyond the CPI increase in 2025 of roughly 3%. It's also noteworthy that the cost of water will continue to increase. I've received notice that from the Water District that there'll be at least a 10% increase in 2026. There really needs to be a change in the Metro District management approach to looking at adapting landscaping practices to improve the efficient use of these limited water resources. This should include plant and grass selections that use less water, as well as, quote, smart irrigation systems that respond to changing weather conditions. We should not see irrigation systems operating in the middle of rainstorms, as is the current situation. It's throwing money away. Without such changes in behavior related to water use, the need for increases beyond the CPI will likely become a recurring problem. Large increases over multiple years will have a negative effect on affordability and ultimately affect home values and resale markets. So I would encourage the Metro District to consider what they could do to improve the irrigation practices and conserve water use, which for irrigation is the major source of these large fees. So that's my comment.
Councilmember Jenkins, any other comments on the consent agenda? Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I would just like to say, as for the Timnath South Metro District, one thing that Metro District has been doing is significant investment in our water conservation. We continue to invest in the control panels every year. I think over the past 3 years, we have made investments in smart control panels. Every year we look at our capital budget, and we are actively looking to pull out landscaping that is water intensive. The ROI is a tough ROI on that, but every year that the Water District does raise its rates, that ROI is getting closer. So as a resident-run board, we do look at that as something that we take very seriously for the South Timnath Metro District. So it's been a long journey to get here, but we do look at that every year because it's a significant portion of the budget. So I do hear your comments for the South Timnath, and we are actively looking at that, even to the point where we can turn off those sprinklers on a mobile phone in the middle of the rainstorm. So we are looking at several different ways to reduce our water usage because it's become so intensive. We basically spend on the pool and we spend on water. So we know that our residents look at our budget, so we take it very seriously.
Yeah, I just have one further minor comment, which is I think it's noteworthy that the South Metro District is asking for a 25% increase as opposed to the Southwest, which is asking for a 50%. And I suspect that maybe some of that is due to conservation efforts that have already gone into practice. So again, I would urge the Southwest Metro District to look at more efficient water use. Thank you.
Any other comments on the consent agenda? Very well. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda as read signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, nay. Consent agenda carries 4-0.
3-0.
Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Jenkins abstained. So it passed 3-0. All right. I am told that our cross-country team is here.
Welcome, team. Please come join us up here. Coach Mittenberg, good to see you again, sir. Yes. So, ladies, welcome back. It's wonderful to see you again. We were here just 1 year ago celebrating Timnath Middle High's first ever 4A state championship. And we are here today now celebrating our second state championship. So this is our cross-country state championship team. Congratulations. I'll ask Councilmember Holt to assist me here, but you know, in addition to just crushing it at the team level, I know that there were multiple individual achievements here that I wanted to go over. First, Izzy Schimmelfinnig. Yeah, I practice. Congratulations. All-state first team, and of course also two-time conference and regional champion. Congratulations, Izzy. Louisa Stribley, also all-state first team. Congratulations, two-time conference and regional champion. Annie Fowler, all-state honorable mention and all-conference. Addison Garretts, all-state honorable mention and all-conference. Paige Barlow, also all-state honorable mention and all-conference. And then also on the team, Gray Jordan and Emily Baki. And of course, their tremendous coach, Coach Mittenberg. So congratulations again. I'm not setting expectations, okay? But we have just reserved a spot in case we need it next year on the December agenda. All right? Do you mind? I'll have council come down. Take a picture, that'd be awesome. Alrighty, we will continue on with our agenda now with council reports. Who would like to kick us off this evening? Well, go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
So I attended the Winter Festival. It was an awesome event. My daughter made the ornament, which was amazing. Did appreciate everybody who came out and attended. Thank you, staff, for planning that. We left just before the squall happened, so I know that was unfortunate, but it was a great event. So thank you, staff, for putting that on, and thank you to all the residents that came out and attended.
Councilmember Jenkins.
Not really too much to report. I did attend the NFR MPO in the last week or so, as well as the Behavioral Health Policy Council. In both cases, the budget was reviewed, and there will be several, because of recent elections, there'll be several new members joining both of those councils in 2026. And I'm hoping to have the director of the Longview Behavioral Health Facility come and give a presentation next year on all the services that they offer and the funding that they offer. And there is a possibility, because some of the funding is for classes for teenagers in art therapy, and there may be a way to coordinate with our future rec center and some of the activities for local teens. So, and that's a grant program that would fund that. So I'll keep my eye out for that as we move forward.
Thank you. Councilmember Holt.
Two things. I think most of us were there in the wind and the cold and the chill. That was the winter festival. I mean, our staff, God bless them for sticking it through to the end and cleaning up when it's windy. We've had pretty good luck this year, but for whatever reason, Timnath events tend to get some weather. So I know we have one heck of a staff and events team that put that on. But one thing that I wanted to note, anybody that was there, the Parks and Rec had a board out, which I thought was super neat, that had opportunities to share input for, I believe, the reservoir. I know both my boys got excited. They got their blue dots. They got to put stickers on the bike park and the slides and the inflatable. Just really neat, interactive. So if you don't attend our events, I think our Parks and Rec, I'll give them a shout out. They try their darndest to get as much outreach as possible to get input from the community as to what the community wants to see. I think that was a phenomenal visual for everybody to interact and at least get an input there. So, and then I also attended, November 15th, I attended the Respite Care Ball. Respite Care is one of our first big nonprofits coming to town. An amazing event. I think they actually broke all their previous records as far as fundraising goes, which is great. I mean, I always cheer them on, but cheering them on even more now that they're coming to Timnath. But it sounds like they'll be opening in March. Respite Care will be opening in March. And Christy, who's the executive director, would love to take anybody for a tour. It's a beautiful building. The work that they're going to do, the amount of kids they're going to be able to help is amazing. So if you get a chance, go over, take a tour, check it out. And we're excited to welcome them early in 26.
Thank you. I'll echo what everyone said regarding the Winter Festival. Just tremendous job by everyone there. I will remind folks that this weekend, the Old Town businesses will have their holiday celebration. And as part of that, the town will be sponsoring Santa at the Presbyterian Church from 3 to 5. So I encourage everyone to get down there. Enjoy that. They always have hot chocolate and cookies. They do a tree lighting ceremony at the end. And of course, please drop in and say hi to all of our great businesses. Mayor Pro Tem, Councilmember Jenkins and I attended an event over at Timnath Middle High that was the ribbon cutting for the new electric bus transfer station there, charging station. So that was really exciting to see that new facility will work out at Timnath Middle High, and just a great step that I'm happy the town was able to help partner on bringing that to the school districts. There was a group of students there, the Navigators, that presented, and they did a really great job. So I appreciate everyone that turned up to that. Mayor Pro Tem Wagner neglected an update, which is our last council chat of the year will be tomorrow at 9 a.m. In this very building here in the community room. So please come and ask Mayor Pro Tem Wagner anything you've ever wanted to know.
I was so focused on the budget, I forgot. So.
All right. Before we move on to staff, anything else? All right. And we'll probably move through staff reports relatively quickly here this evening since we have a pretty big agenda. But let me start with finance. Director Gagliardi.
I don't have anything to add unless there's questions.
We'll save it for the budget conversation.
Sounds great.
All right. Public Works, Director Stone.
Yeah, same here. I have nothing to report unless you have some questions.
Community Development, Director Robinson. Boy, when I say brief, we're ready to go with brief. All right. Parks and Rec, Director Casal.
So I just wanted to give you guys a brief update as to where we're at with movement of the recreation center. So we put out last week an RFQ for architect, engineering, design. We had a proposal meeting yesterday. We had over 100 attendees. So there's a lot of buzz about this project. So a lot of interest from everyone around. And then also we'll be putting out an RFQ for a CMGC general contractor. That'll go out next week. We plan on bringing to council in April or the end of March a contract for architect and design, and then in April we'll do CMGC is the timeline that we're going for right now. Once we get that, then we'll go ahead and get kicked off. And then the intent is to have the firm on board in March, RFQ for construction. In April, as soon as the architect firm is on board, we'll begin the planning process and move forward with preliminary plat, final plat, and site plan approval. This can be done simultaneously with the design. And if you're looking for an overall timeline, it's going to take about 12 months once we have the architect on board to design it, and about 18 months before we can open. So we're looking at end of 2028 for an opening date. So unless you guys have any questions.
Thank you, sir. And I'll mention we've had some discussion about council's participation in the design process and seeing this through. And we've discussed having 2 council members be a part of your advisory committee. I, as you might imagine, do have an interest in participating in that. When we also discussed perhaps the council member that ends up with the primary prost committee obligation, perhaps also being on that. We have the council election coming up in the spring, and so we'll kind of, after that election, redo our assignments based on who's around and what the interests are, but that's kind of what we've talked about as a process there. All right, thanks, sir. And finally, police, Chief Scott. Thank you as always. It was great to see your crew out at you and Captain Jacobson and several of your crew at the holiday festival. So thank you for being there. Also, I was at a meeting today with Detective Morgan. So it's good to see him out on a very important committee there as well. So good job. All right. Any questions for Chief Scott? Very well. Then this evening we're going to proceed first with all the public hearing items. So we'll begin with resolution number 70, Series 2025, resolution approving the Timnath Landing Filing Number 9 final plat. Mr. Kemper.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. The first item for discussion, as you mentioned, is a final plat application for the Timnath Landing subdivision. I'll begin with a brief overview of the subject property. So this filing, which is filing number 9, covers portions of tracks A and B of the Timnath Landing third filing, which was recorded in November of 2021. The overall property is approximately 11 million square feet, or roughly 252 acres. I apologize. Also, just to get some context for the adjacent land uses, to the north, there's unincorporated Larimer County, as well as the White Wing subdivision and the old McMorris Estate. To the east is Harmony Club subdivision, south Walker Manufacturing, and to the west is the existing Timnath Landing subdivision. So this is the first process, or the last process of the major subdivision review here at the town. The property was successfully annexed in 2004, and since then has undergone zoning in the first 2 stages of the subdivision process, which is guiding the development to where we are today. The application is in accordance with the hearing and notice requirements, which does require recommendation by Planning Commission and a final decision by you at Town Council. This application was presented to Planning Commission last week with a unanimous recommendation of approval. Town Council, you have the action to hold this public hearing and approve, conditionally approve, or deny the subdivision based on the subdivision review criteria. This was also properly noticed physically on site, mailed to adjacent property owners, and published within the Coloradan. The subject property has 3 zonings accompanying it, R2, R3, and CMU, with an approved PD overlay, all adhering to the comprehensive plan designation of medium-density residential. And the criteria I just alluded to earlier, just as a refresher, there are 3 for a final plat review that the town reviews against. One being that the final plat conforms to the approved preliminary plat. 2, that the development substantially complies to the code, that being the land use code, and all applicable technical standards have been met with the application. So into the proposal. The filing represents the first phase of subdivision for the remaining undeveloped portions of those 2 tracks A and B of the third filing. The applicant is proposing to create 340 single-family residential lots. In addition to these lots, the plat includes tracts dedicated for landscaping, open space, utilities, and drainage. A tract roughly 80 acres in size to the north is designated for future development and would be platted in a later phase consistent with the previously approved Timnath Landing Preliminary Plat Amendment Number 4. The proposed gross residential density is approximately 1.96 dwelling units per acre. This density is within the allowable range for the R2 and R3 zoning districts, which the lots lie, which permit up to 4 and 8 dwelling units per acre respectively. In regards to the open space, the plat is providing roughly 36 acres of open space, exceeding the town's open space requirements for single-family subdivisions. That is 20% of the gross area. The open space network includes a neighborhood park and various pocket parks, all designed to serve those residential lots within a quarter mile of each. The plat also establishes a connected system of neighborhood trails, as well as a regional trail connection consistent with the town's Parks and Recreation Open Space and Trails Plan, or PROS plan. The open space areas include a variety of amenities that were outlined in the detail sheet of the landscape plan, designed to support active and passive use. These amenities included shade structures, play structures for multiple age groups, learning and sensory panels, active turf areas, and connected network of both hard and soft surface trails. Additional features include climbing structures, swings. There's a permanent cornhole and bocce facility, seating benches, picnic tables, and a designated dog park for the community. The park also incorporates native plantings and seed mixes to support a long-term sustainability. And it's important to note that these amenities are subject to change due to availability or other constraints. However, replacements in similar nature may be approved at construction. So what you're seeing on the screen here, the red areas represent the connections, extended connections to the existing community to the south at Pinedale and Burntwood, and a new entrance to the north along Timnath Parkway. The regional trail will be completed with this filing along the eastern boundary of the site, getting us closer to that connection to the Timnath Reservoir. In purple is representing just a neighborhood trails network spanning east to west along a linear park design that is being proposed. And then just for added clarity, there is the yellow lines represent the lake access that would be improved with this filing, similar to the previous filings of Timnath Landing. This filing is consistent with the approved Timnath Landing sketch plan amendment. That plan permits up to 764 single-family dwelling units within the plat's boundary. Any additional dwellings proposed in future phases would be reviewed in accordance with the provisions of the adopted sketch plan resolution. The plat also implements a circulation network, the trail connections, and open space framework that was outlined in the sketch plan, the plan development overlay, and other applicable town planning documents. And finally, with respect to the lot standards, the minimum lot size within this filing is roughly 5,927 square feet. The maximum proposed is 17,607 square feet. That is an average lot size of approximately 8,185 square feet. All lots are meeting or exceeding the requirements established in the Timnath Landing Plan Development Overlay Amendment Number 2. Staff has reviewed the proposal against the final plat review criteria, and have the following is summarizing our findings. First, as I discussed, the code requires that the final plat conform with the approved preliminary plat and incorporate any required changes or conditions otherwise approved by the town. Staff finds that this plat complies with the approved Timnath Landing preliminary plat, amendment number 4. The plat reflects a slight reduction to the number of lots due to a revised design from that preliminary plat that actually increases the lot sizes throughout the filing. However, these adjustments remain consistent with the overall layout, circulation, and intent of that preliminary plat. Second being that the development must substantially comply to the town's land use code. Staff has found that this plat is substantially compliant with the applicable provisions of the code, specifically Article 5, which reviews or contains criteria for development standards, and Article 6 with standards for land subdivision. And lastly, the third standard being that all technical standards are met. We have reviewed this against the town's design criteria manual and the Larimer County urban area street standards. The street network, utilities, and grading have been evaluated, and staff confirms that all the applicable technical standards are met with this proposal. So the Community Development Department recommends approval of the Timnath Landing filing number 9, final plat to Town Council with the following conditions. Allow staff to work with the owner applicant to address minor modifications prior to final signatures. This would allow us to work on these adjustments without changing the overall layout or number of units while still meeting all applicable standards of the code itself. Second, that the recording of the final plat shall not be granted until the Aiken lateral relocation agreement is fully executed. This plat does include a relocation of that existing Aiken lateral, as we've discussed, which is held by a separate easement owner. So we are awaiting the agreement to be executed prior to any recording of that document, which would then reference that agreement within the newly aligned easement on the plat itself. And then lastly, that the applicant shall implement measures as applicable to protect bald eagles, migratory birds, and other active nests prior to and during the nesting season, based on the identification of a high priority habitat area by the Colorado Parks and Wildlife. Detailed protocols for the construction timing and monitoring and habitat protection shall be established and approved by the town before construction may begin with this filing. And with that, I will turn it over to the applicant team for their presentation.
Good evening. Good to see you again.
Thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you. My name is Jeff Norberg. I'm with PCS Group. We are the landscape architects behind the Timnath Lakes community. I'll be here to present the Filing 9 final plat to you all tonight. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the development team. I'd also like to give a special thanks to Chad for his presentation and staff for getting us here this evening. Back in July, you all had approved the preliminary plat for this north half of the Timnath Lakes community. Fast forward to today, and you see the master plan graphic of essentially Filing 9, this southern portion of this northern half of the Timnath Lakes community. You can see that the two plans are virtually identical, except for a few minor lotting changes. In total, we are proposing 340 single-family homes with this Filing 9 plat. In addition to the neighborhood park that Chad mentioned that is going to run between Filing 9 and Filing 10 there on the north side of Filing 9. In addition to this neighborhood park, we've worked pretty closely with staff to develop enhanced amenities above and beyond what was proposed during the preliminary plat. And those include an enlarged southern pocket park to make better use of the space, an enhanced bocce cornhole plaza area for kind of an older audience. And it'll also include the construction of the T-Rock Trail along the eastern border of the property. These next few slides show renderings of the proposed neighborhood park or the amenities in them. They'll include a large inclusive playground, multi-use turf fields, a dog park, as well as a network of trails and walks connecting to the remainder of the community. Dog park. In summary, we're very excited to be bringing the Timnath Lakes community towards its final areas of construction. And we're excited to see residents be able to use some of these open spaces. That concludes our presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Norberg, and we'll do questions here in just a second. But before we do, I will take our public hearing portion of this. Does look like one individual has signed up, so I'll ask Matt Machado, are you here? Good evening, sir. Welcome. If you'll give your name, address, you've got 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name's Matt Machado. I'm with Lions Gaddis. We represent the ditch owners. I was here last summer at your meeting to talk about the issues with the ditch. We are still working with CAC on an agreement to relocate and pipe the ditch. Been a rocky road, but I think we're close. And I just wanted to say that we did appreciate the concerns that the council shared last summer. We are okay with the plan as proposed, which is that the plat would be approved contingent upon, or recording contingent upon the final agreement with, or reaching an agreement with the ditch owners. They have valuable water rights from the Lake Canal that are carried from the top of the development down to the bottom to Harmony Road and then delivered to the owners, South Harmony Road. The only concern I have is I'm not sure how it gets enforced, how the plat does not get recorded. I guess if the town holds on to it, that's fine after it gets signed, and then controls the recording. That probably works. And that's, if you have any questions of me, I'm happy to answer them, but that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you being here. Nobody else has signed up, but I'll ask now, is there anyone present that did not sign up but would like to speak on this item? And with that, we'll go to council questions.
Yeah, so I'm in agreement with the conditions to preserve the rights of the ditch owners, the water owners. So Chad, could you address the procedure to, again, just to ensure that their rights are protected in order to get this thing filed?
Yes, so with an approval tonight, prior to recording of the document, the applicant would be responsible for getting all signatures from referral agencies, then comes to the town for our final signatures. So it's in our hands last prior to recording the actual plat itself. So we will ensure that the document is not recorded until we have received said agreement or note that has been agreed upon.
Yeah, that sounds perfect.
How long will you hold that document for, Chad? Is there an expiration?
That is a great question. Yes.
I know that the plat, we did add a 2-year expiration date, but I don't know.
Yes, so
Do you
the,
remember,
yes,
Logan?
we did.
Is 2 years? Okay, cool. So 2 years.
Okay. Thank you. I just want to make sure we state that so we all know. Thank you.
I guess my question would be, does the agreement on the ditch also, does it hold up anything? Because this is filing 9, there's still a filing 10, correct? There's still more
Correct.
behind this?
Correct.
How does that impact that agreement with the ditch for the additional, is there an additional agreement, or is that
You
agreement?
know, really barring unforeseen events here, I mean, we met countless times here to get to this agreement. We just met again the other day, and I think we all feel like we're weeks, not months away from having that agreement signed. Hopefully even next week. So,
But that'll, at that time, that'll solidify both 9 and 10, I'm assuming?
yeah, so 9, so that condition would then be satisfied for 9. And so long as that agreement is executed and provided prior to when we come up here for the filing 10 approval, then my understanding would be that there just wouldn't be that same condition for filing 10, Chad.
Yeah, if the agreement does encapsulate the entirety of the ditch relocation, then yes, that would be the case.
And again, I don't know if this question is ultimately relevant to the final decision here, but is there a way to go back at all to the overall picture that shows the parks and there you go. One more. There we go. So I'm obviously big proponent for open space parks, the whole 9 yards. It seems like the neighborhood park here, the pocket parks is all good. Down below, that community park open space, is that still, and the community rec center, is that still getting developed? I know right now it's just land. Are those things, is that contingent on those will get built out once this gets more built out for cost purposes, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we agreed that in our SIA amendment, which we'll be hearing tonight as well, that the rec center and park along Harmony would need to be constructed no later than the 30th certificate of occupancy in filing 9. So previously, there were no deadlines, so to speak, as to when the rec center and park would be built. But we kind of heard the concerns of staff and residents that want to see that built, and we agreed that we would tie that to filing 9. And that had always been the concept, is that because of the enormous infrastructure lift in filing phase 2, filings 3, 4, 7, and 8, that these improvements would be a phase 3 or filing 9 improvement. So we've agreed to solidify that in the SIA amendment.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Then, is there a motion to approve Timnath Landing Filing 9 final plat with 3 conditions? First, to allow staff to work with the owner applicant to address minor non-substantive modifications prior to final signatures. Second, that recordation of the final plat will not be granted until the Aiken lateral relocation agreement is fully executed. And third, that the applicant shall implement measures as applicable to protect bald eagles, migratory birds, and other active nests prior to and during the nesting season, based on the identification of high priority areas by Colorado Parks and Wildlife. Detailed protocols for construction timing, monitoring, and habitat protection shall be established and approved by the town before construction begins.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion. Councilmember
Yeah,
Jenkins.
I think the amendments are critical here, preserving the wildlife and respecting the nesting periods, and also preserving the rights of the ditch owners and water owners, as that's a critical resource for those ditch owners. So I'm satisfied that the criteria has been met, and the town is in the controlling position here to make sure everything is appropriate. So I will be voting for this.
Councilmember Holt.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say, I mean, I agree with everything Councilmember Jenkins said. Those are big pieces to make sure that we get right. I also think, you know, the furthering of this community, the design of it looks great. I think this is a flagship community inside of Timnath, and you know, happy to see it going the right direction. Happy to see the park and the rec center being thought of, and those amenities being delivered to those residents too. So I think it looks great, and I'll be voting for it as well.
I'm also in support for the reasons stated. I believe that it complies with the criteria. It is substantially similar to what we had already approved in the preliminary plat. With that, all those in favor of approving Timnath Landing Filing Number 9 final plat with the 3 conditions signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, nay? It is approved 4-0.
Thank you, council members.
We'll move on to item 7B, ordinance number 22, series 2025, an ordinance approving annual salary for the town mayor and council members. Larry.
Good evening. What you have before you is a council pay ordinance. This was initially discussed during the budget work session. Per our home rule charter, it allows for council pay to be set by ordinance, provided that the increase does not take effect during any current council member's present term of office. The next council elections are April 2026 and November 2028. Based on the modification from the first reading, this ordinance now reads that the ordinance will be amended to reflect pay effective May 2026 for those elected in April 2026. So effectively, 2 council members will begin pay in May 2026, and the entire council will be paid beginning in January 2029 after the November 2028 election. The amounts were based on a market analysis compared to other municipalities. The ordinance allows for market adjustments annually from the 2026 base. The base pay is anticipated the mayor at $2,600 per year, Mayor Pro Tem $2,200 per year, and council members $2,100 per year. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Before we move to questions, I will open this up for public comment. Ask if there's anyone present that would like to speak on this item. No one has signed up. Okay. Seeing no one, we'll move to council questions. Okay. Then is there a motion to approve the resolution approving annual salary for town mayor and council members?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion beginning with Councilmember Holt.
No, I mean, we've had good discussions with this. I think the amounts are appropriate. I think the research has been done. I know Councilmember Lake, although not here, was a big focus of hers. So that way, those that are potentially looking to have a seat up here and volunteer to be in the town, that financial restraints don't hold people back from going after a council position. So I'm in full support.
Councilmember Jenkins.
Yeah, actually, this was one of the things that I ran on for council as well. I think it's appropriate. These seem like reasonable amounts, and I'm in favor of it. Makes sense.
Mayor Pro Tem Wagner.
I'll continue to support this. I think if there's anybody out there that's considering running for council that hasn't had an opportunity, maybe this is an incentive to do so. So more community activism is always a positive thing.
And I do support the concept of council pay. It's a nominal amount, but it does make sense. As we discussed at the first reading, I would have preferred that the pay start for all members at the same time. I believe that is has a logical consistency to it, and from the individuals sitting out there looking at us, trying to figure out who's being paid and who's not, and what conclusions you might draw from that. I would have preferred that this all start at the same time at that first available date, but I appreciate and respect the position of the other council members. Any other comments? Okay. All those in favor of approving the ordinance approving annual salary for town mayor and council members signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, nay? Okay, it passes 4-0. We have an election in April, so if you're going to run, you can be compensated. Item 7C, ordinance number 23, series 2025, an ordinance approving an amendment to the 2024 International Fire Code. Director Robinson.
Mayor, council members, before I jump in, I do want to clarify the time period at which the final plat would expire. It's actually 3 years, not 2 years. So, moving forward. Again, just want to refresh your memory. You did recently approve the 2024 International Fire Code through Ordinance 11 earlier this year. This amendment is just going through to make some minor changes and clarifications. That's included in your packet, indicated through highlights and strike-throughs. There's also an amendment to delete in its entirety Chapter 10, because that's covered and enforced through the International Building Code. I'd be happy to answer any questions. We do have Sean here from PFA to answer any additional questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you being here. As Scott mentioned, we had a work session on this. I believe we also had a first reading, and I think folks have been through this. This is an item that would qualify for a public hearing. Doesn't look like anyone signed up, but I'll ask if there's anyone present that would like to speak on this matter. I see no one. Council questions? All right. Seeing that there are no questions, is there a motion to approve an ordinance approving an amendment to the 2024 International Fire Code?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Mayor Pro Tem Wagner.
Always important to keep our fire code updated, so I appreciate your efforts to keep us compliant and moving forward, so I'll be supporting this tonight.
Councilmember Holt.
No, I agree with what Luke said. I think we've gone through this in great detail. And again, thank you for your service and your help on all this.
Councilmember Jenkins.
No, as the other council members have said, we've gone through this and understand the changes, so as best we can anyways. So I'll be voting for it.
I am also in support. All those in favor of the ordinance approving the amendment to the 2024 International Fire Code signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, nay. Carries 4-0. Thank you, everyone. Move on to item 7D, ordinance number 24, series 2025, an ordinance amending chapter 4 of the Town Municipal Code. Gagliari.
Good evening. This ordinance is to make amendments to our sales and use tax code per ballot issue 3A. The amendments to the various sections of Chapter 4 are as follows. The sales tax will be increased from 3% to 4.25%. Food for home consumption will go from 2.25% to 3.5%. Building materials use tax and motor vehicle tax will go from 3% to 4.25%. These changes are all effective January 1st, 2026, and the revenue will be dedicated to the future recreation center. All other exemptions under the code will remain the same, and the rates will remain in effect until the latest date of December 31st, 2056, but council can come back and amend and reduce them at any time if the debt gets paid off sooner or if there's sufficient revenue from other areas.
Thank you. This also qualifies for public hearing. No one has signed up, but is there anyone present that would like to speak on this? Seeing no one, council, are there any questions?
And yeah, just to be clear, this is the funds generated by this increased sales and use tax will go into a restricted fund that can only be used for the rec center design, construction, and maintenance / operations.
Correct.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay. And is there a motion to approve the ordinance amending Chapter 4 of the Town Municipal Code?
So approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a public vote on this. We spent a lot of time talking about it prior to the vote, and clearly the citizens want a rec center, and we're going to build one. So I'm going to vote for this.
Democracy in action, and now we're implementing. So I'll be supporting it.
Councilmember Holt? I am very much in support of this. You know, I will note that although each rate does go up by the 1.5%, that food for home can, I'm sorry, 1.25%, that the food for home consumption is still a lower tax rate. And so, you know, I know it's been a matter for discussion in other communities, but I did want to recognize that Timnath does continue to tax that at a lower rate. All right, any other comments? All right, then all those in favor of the ordinance amending Chapter 4 of the Town Municipal Code signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, nay? It carries. I encourage everyone to hold their Costco shopping until January 1st so that you can help with the Rex.
Get that new car after January 1st.
I kid. All right.
Or truck.
Next, ordinance number 25, series 2025, an ordinance summarizing expenditures and revenues for each fund, adopting a budget, and appropriating sums of money to the various funds and spending agencies in the amount and for the purposes as set forth below for the town of Timnath, Colorado for the calendar year beginning on the 1st of January 2026, ending on the last day, December 2026. This is the budget.
We're here. I want to thank Council for all your questions, your attention to detail, your direction, department directors for really being team players in this year's budget. It was more challenging than previous years, and town manager for all of his support during this budget process. So this will outline our initiatives for 2026 and allocate funds accordingly. Just to walk through the budget process, it was presented to council at work session on October 7th. We did publicize on our website, social media, weekly newsletters, encouraging public input. Public input was collected and it's distributed and included in your packet. We had the first reading on November 11th. Since then, we've updated some 2025 and 2026 projections. This includes forecasting some vacancy savings for 2025, so our anticipated expenditures went down, and a higher fund balance for 2026. We made some adjustments favorably to our benefit insurance rates, and we estimated our rollovers for capital projects included in the 2026 appropriation. So we anticipate rolling forward for $5.9 million that was budgeted in 25 to 2026. Out of that, I know this question came up as far as how much we're saving, and we're going to realize 1.7 million in capital project savings from the 2025 anticipated. After today, we'll prepare a budget brief and budget book for public and add supplementary information prior to submitting to the state and GFOA after budget adoption. When we reviewed the budget during the work session, we always look at a 5-year time frame. The 5-year projections include a structurally balanced budget through 2030. That means our recurring revenue is always more than our recurring expenses. We have the expiration of the TDA in 2029. We do maintain a 25% working reserve through 2030, which is part of our policy. We do anticipate debt issuance in 2027 of up to $14 million. Some of those savings mentioned below and any savings in 2026 could reduce that number. The reason for the debt issuance is we have to kind of build now and get paid later for a lot of those infrastructure projects. We project minimal growth to protect against potential economic downturn and an uncertain economy. So our building revenue projections are down a little bit. Sales tax is relatively flat, and other revenues are either flat or a little bit decreased. We fund capital improvement plans utilizing restricted resources always, so we look at impact fees, TDA, when allowable prior to using general fund obligations. The big change in 2026 is, of course, the Recreation Center. It will create a new special revenue fund. It includes rec center financing proceeds of $90 million, dedicated sales tax estimated at $6.7 million, debt service of $5.2 million, and then we have engineering and design of $17 million. We don't anticipate any personnel increases until 2027 or later, just depending on the construction timeline. Other priorities include branding, a single hauler trash feasibility study, a safety action plan, which is grant funded, I-25 and Harmony Road study, which is a partnership with Fort Collins, and we'll continue land use code updates, emergency management support, master plans, including the comp plan and reservoir, and then economic development. So we will include Main Street program funding, town property surveys and marketing analysis, economic incentives, and implement strategies from comp plan and wayfinding. An overview of our capital projects. The big one, of course, is the rec center design at $17 million. We'll continue County Road 5 bridge widening and design, funding broadband, and then Timnath Parkway Bus Grove to North Main. I think those are our largest capital projects. We will allocate $38.6 million for capital improvements in 2026. Personnel changes. So we started with our 2025 budget at 83.25 FTE. We have added 2 new positions in 2025 that were approved by council, a communications position and a police captain. We've eliminated 2 positions in 2026 that were vacant that we will no longer fund. That's a paralegal and a building permit tech. And then you have new positions, which include the GIS IT administrator, administrative assistants for the police department and parks, a parks maintenance worker, and a half-time code enforcement officer. So we'll be at 87.75 FTE in 2026. All of that equates to a total appropriation of $90 million. Of that, $24 million is transfers between funds. So total expenditures are $66 million. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Cagliari. Before we get to questions, I will open it up for public comment. We'll note we did received one in-depth written comment, Mr. Dakota, which I appreciated you submitting, and I know everyone has read that. Looks like Mr. Dakota is our sole person to sign up to speak this evening, so invite you to the podium.
Turn it off. Yeah, it's already on.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Dennis Strakota, 5051 Brule Drive, Timnath. I offered comments and suggestions regarding, as the mayor alluded to, on specific budget issues during the public comment period. So I won't touch on those tonight. Rather, I'd like to offer some suggestions on broader governance issues that could be used to improve the town's budget process and documents. You know, at the heart of governance is accountability, transparency, and public participation. As arguably the most important decision-making process at the local government level, budgeting should incorporate those tenets to the greatest extent possible. Accountability provides a framework for building trust, improving performance, fostering innovation, and ensuring the town delivers results. One of the best ways to ensure accountability is through the establishment, monitoring, and reporting of performance measures. These measures provide a basis for assessing whether the town is achieving operating results and outcomes in an efficient and effective manner. Unlike strategic plans that focus on completion of projects and tasks, performance measures focus on day-to-day operations. For example, a typical efficiency measure for public safety operations is the time it takes for officers to respond to reported incidents. For a parks and recreation program, it might be the percentage of the town's youth participating in organized activities. It will take a while to develop a full complement of performance measures, but the town could benefit by establishing and tracking a few measures for each major program to assess progress over time and maybe provide a basis of comparison with other municipalities. Transparency, or the quality of being open to public scrutiny, is at the heart of democratic government. Since public budgeting sets the parameters for raising revenue and spending public funds, transparency is imperative. In budgeting, that means providing sufficient detail as well as credible estimates of revenues and spending for both current and future commitments. The town does a good job of presenting summary data, but falls a little short of offering enough detail for the public and perhaps even the council to learn the true cost of town programs, projects, and services. I would suggest that the town provide more detail in its budget at the departmental program, activity, and object level. In addition, long-range forecasts for major revenue and spending categories should cover a minimum of 3 future years. In this budget, that would have meant showing estimates for 2026, 2027, and 2028. Lastly, the town should encourage and facilitate public participation in the budget process. The town does a good job of involving public participation in master plans, holding listening sessions, and conducting resident surveys. It might be a good idea to treat the annual budget process as a mini master plan by holding budget workshops where town staff respond to questions from residents and taxpayers, or conducting online surveys before the council reviews the budget. Let me close by saying that I found the town staff very responsive to my inquiries on the budget, even though they have many demands on their time. Because Timnath is in a transition from a contract municipality to in-house operation, the town will need to continue to rely on outside contractors to accomplish certain tasks or to provide staff support. I have no doubt that the council and staff strive to be frugal with the spending of town resources. The need for more transparency, accountability, and public participation in the budget process is to ensure that the majority of residents are on the same page with council and staff regarding spending priorities. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Stakota. We appreciate your letter, your comments this evening, and the time that you spent with staff going over the budgets. Thank you, sir. No one else has signed up, but is there anyone present that would like to comment on the budget? With that, we will move to council questions on the budget. Councilman Jenkins, I know you have thoughts.
Well, yeah, I have some thoughts. I was actually going to offer an amendment, but I've changed my mind on that and taken a different approach. One of the things that is in our 5-year budget is $1 million identified for open space acquisition. And what I'd like to do is direct staff to create a designated reserve fund for future open space acquisitions to be funded from actual sales and use tax revenues that exceed such revenues that are estimated in the adopted budget for fiscal year 26. And to be clear, the reserve fund is not a restricted fund. Any funds put in this reserve fund while the fund is identified as open space, it's still going to require an action by council to allocate those funds to spend them, and they could be spent on open space or could be spent on other critical items at that time. But clearly, we have $1 million identified, but no identified way to get there over 5 years. And this would hopefully provide a mechanism that would lead us to that open space reserve fund so we can take advantage of it if there are opportunities that open up for the town to acquire more open space.
Councilman Jenkins, I know there's been some discussion in the background about this. Director Gagliardi, is that something conceptually that we could look at?
Yes, so it would be considered designated funds, so any funds authorized by council policy are considered designated and unrestricted, so it would require a vote of council to use them for certain areas. I would recommend that we bring back our working reserve policy in addition to this through Finance Committee and then ultimately to council. I think one thing we'll have to balance is funding that reserve and also looking at reducing our potential debt issuance. So I think that's a council decision on what that looks like and how that gets funded. But we can draft something and bring it back.
Councilman Jenkins, you'd be comfortable with that strategy?
Yeah, and as we talked, you think maybe sometime in the first quarter we could address this issue.
Yeah, we can bring a policy back through first quarter.
Yeah, and it would also allow the Finance Committee to participate in that, and so I think it's great. There's some public participation there, staff participation, and council, rather than me just offering an amendment. So, thank you. I appreciate it.
Additional questions on the budget, Councilmember Holt?
No, so there was a couple slides back where there was a lot of areas of improvement, things, but it says here 1.7 million in savings on capital projects. Am I right on that number?
Yes.
Okay. So is that from just savings, projects were complete, or is these projects that we're not doing anymore, or is this just savings how did we get to 1.7 million in capital project savings?
Projects were complete and they came in under budget.
Under budget? Even better. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
No, I don't have any additional questions tonight. I've harassed Lisa enough on the budget, so I really appreciate all your time, Lisa.
We did receive one comment that asked about the Peanut Park design slated for 2027 and construction slated for 2028. And that comment essentially raised several points. One is, won't our staff already be really busy designing the rec center this year? And then second of all, kind of what's the perception look like? Putting so much energy into the rec center or into rec programming generally, and then, there's also the mention of potentially needing to borrow up to 14 million in 2027. I guess I would just ask, have we considered those comments, and what is the thought in terms of moving the Peanut Park forward now? As I recall, it actually is something that we've already delayed once or twice. Is that right?
Sorry. Yes, we have pushed it back on our CIP. And the main reason that it's in the next 5 years in particular is we can utilize TDA funds for those. So it's really important that we utilize those while we have them. And so it does require that the TDA will fund a good portion of that. And I don't know the exact amount, but that's forecasted to use TDA funds for what's allowable.
Gotcha. And the TDA sunsets in 2029, so it makes sense to try to spend it prior to that.
Correct.
Council, any other questions on the budget? Okay. Then is there a motion to approve the ordinance summarizing expenditures and revenues for each fund, adopting a budget, appropriating sums of money, various funds and spending agencies in the amount and for the purposes set forth below for the town of Timnath, Colorado for the calendar year beginning first day of January 2026, then ending on the last day of December 2026?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion on the budget. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, so I just have a couple comments. In just poring over this budget, there's a couple of items I noticed. So I really like that we're making a significant investment in training for staff townwide. I really hope town staff take advantage of these resources. So thank you, Aaron, for investing in our staff. I also like that we're looking into the single hauler trash feasibility study. And then I really like that we're dedicating some funds for the Main Street program. So I know as a council, we've put that forward, so I appreciate what we've done as a council, and I know there's a lot of work to be done with that Main Street program, and I like that we put those funds forward. As a council, as a town, as we look to the future, I think it's important to make sure we have the operational funds to maintain what we're building with the Capitol today. So I think, I know Lisa, Aaron, I know you guys are thinking about that because we're putting a lot in capital forward. So we've got to think about that operational need in the future. As a council member tonight, I'm really proud to say that this budget puts strength. Sorry, let me restart. We put staffing. We're putting staffing in public safety and public works. So I'm really proud of that. Like that's coming forward. We're reducing staffing, consultant time. We're expanding training, and we're really deepening our community engagement. And I do think that this budget is strategically focused. So I'm really proud of this year's budget.
I think it's eye-opening, right? Being in this role as to what it takes to put a budget together. So first of all, kudos to our accounting and our entire staff, even with a reduced staff in the accounting department. So thank you very much for the time and effort. Thanks to the finance committee and efforts that go, and each department head, for that matter. I think as a council, we often ask a lot of the community for feedback, for answers, for opinions. What I've seen in my close to 2 years up here is not only do we ask for them, but that we put them into action, which tends to come with debt, tends to come with a lot of expense, tends to come with a lot of cost. So the fact that the town not only gets excited to put those things forward, but is also conscious on getting the projects done in a timely manner and doing them at a reduced cost if possible. So when I see things like 1.7 million in savings and the projects are still complete, that means the town's listening, the town's putting the things in place, and they're doing it with the economical aspect of cost savings, being good stewards of the town's money. So all of that, as not only as a resident, but as a council member, rings really, really loud and clear for me. And the staff's willingness to take advice on other areas and look for expertise to not only provide the best for the staff. I know on the benefits, right, big savings on that this year. It's constant, and we can see it, the effort that goes into not only putting this budget together, but making sure that we do the best for the town at the lowest cost possible. So kudos, because that's not an easy task. Jenkins.
Yeah, I'm actually happy to see the emphasis in the budget on economic development. As the year goes on in 2026, I definitely anticipate that there will be performance measures developed so that we can monitor our progress in the area of economic development, and I'll be looking forward to that as well. So I appreciate everybody's effort on this. It's been a long haul. We've had quite a few meetings on this, and I appreciate the effort. Thank you.
I will echo all the comments with appreciation to all of our staff. This budgeting process, takes half the year, and it is clear that when the first version of the budget comes to us, there has already been so much well thought out ideas put into it, and it is clear that our staff really works to ask the tough questions, and by the time the budget comes to us, I know that there's already been a lot of effort in really answering the question, is this needed? So I'm excited about some of the things that we will be able to fund and continue to fund next year. It wasn't highlighted, but obviously broadband continues to be a big success, and we will continue to make appropriations there. Of course, very excited about the potential of the rec center and continuing to support our growing police department and growing Parks and Rec department, both of which really had a big year this last year with a lot going on. So thank you to everyone that has been a part of this. We really do appreciate it. Any other comments? Okay. Ms. Peters-Garcia, I haven't done this to you in a while, but if we're gonna allocate $94 million, I'm gonna ask for a roll call vote.
Yes, sir. Councilmember Bill Jenkins.
I agree with it.
Councilmember Jeremy Holt.
I'm all for it.
Mayor Pro Tem Luke Wagner.
Yes.
Mayor Robert Oxmacher.
I vote aye in the affirmative. The budget passes unanimously 4-0.
A different answer from everybody.
All right, we will now move on to item 7F, Ordinance 26, Series 2025, an ordinance amending the town budget for the 2025 year.
Thank you. This is to increase the general fund appropriation by approximately $1 million. When we brought this forward on the first reading, there was an estimate that was greater for the general fund, and it also included the parks fund. But after we went back and adjusted for vacancy savings and some other things, we don't need to do a supplemental appropriation for the Parks and Recreation Fund, but we still need to do a supplemental appropriation for the general fund of $1,095,293. That's mainly due to transfers to establish the new funds based on the 2024 ending fund balances. We did estimates, and those estimates were higher, so it required more transfers to establish those new funds related to capital expansion funds, capital improvement, and the new parks fund. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Good. And before we do that, I will ask if there is anyone who would like to make a comment on this budget amendment. No one has signed up. Anyone here would like to do that? Counseling questions? All right. I believe it was covered in pretty good depth on the first reading. So with that, all those in favor, I'm sorry, yeah, is there a motion, to approve the ordinance amending the town budget for 2025?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All right, then all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, nay? Okay, the budget amendment passes unanimously 4-0. Item 7G, ordinance number 27, series 2025, an ordinance appointing Stuart W. Olive as municipal judge for a 6-month term. Steffel.
Thank you. So this is second reading of this ordinance. And ordinance number 27. Judge Olive is our current sitting judge and has been the judge of the town for many, many years. And his current term and contract will expire at the end of this year. The town staff recommended going forward with this request for proposals in next year to determine who would be appointed as the next municipal judge. But in order to provide the time to do that, we would like to continue to appoint him for another 6-month term through June 30th, 2026. And he would, of course, be encouraged to participate in that request for proposals process to submit a proposal if he'd like to continue in the position. The town charter requires that we have an ordinance in any time that we appoint a town judge for less than a 2-year term, and it also puts the appointment of the town judge directly in the responsibility of the council. Mr. Olive has been the Timnath municipal judge since 1997. He is an active member of the Colorado Bar in good standing and a member of the law firm March and Olive LLC. Okay, attached to the ordinance is a copy of the current contract that we have with March and Olive and the draft amendment. And with that, I am open to any questions, and this is also a public hearing.
Thank you, Ms. Steffel. Before we go to questions, no one has signed up, but I'll ask if anyone would like to speak on this item. See none, we'll move to questions. All right, doesn't look like there are any questions. Is there a motion to approve the ordinance appointing Stuart Olive as municipal judge for a 6-month term?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion, Councilmember Jenkins.
No, I think it makes sense. He's in good standing. He's been doing this for a number of years, and give him an opportunity also to decide whether or not he wants to continue. I believe, over 20 years worth of service to the town of Timnath, so we really appreciate his service.
Yeah, it's closer to 30 years. I think I think we're at 28 years now.
Right. So this gives him an opportunity to decide whether he wants to continue or do something else.
All right, any other comments? Very well. Then all those in favor of the ordinance appointing Stuart Olive for a 6-month term signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, nay? Passes 4-0 unanimously. Item 7H, ordinance number 28, series 2025, an ordinance amending the land use code. Ms. Graves. And Mr. Kemper.
Thank you again, Council. I'm actually going to tag team this with Logan, which we will present and discuss the proposed land use code amendments, which represent the third and final batch of the year. These amendments are intended to reflect the town's ongoing efforts to enhance code clarity, ensure compliance with recent state legislation, and align with local regulations and best practices. With the first code update, staff is recommending the reintroduction of a provision that would prohibit gated communities in all residential developments. The purpose of this provision is to ensure that streets, sidewalks, pathways, and trails, any access, remain accessible to both vehicles and pedestrians, with exceptions only to emergency or utility access. This recommendation does come in response from the fact that our current land use code no longer includes restrictions on gated communities, where the previous version explicitly prohibited them. The reintroduction of this provision is intended to align with the goals of the town's comprehensive plan to promote safe, inclusive, and well-connected neighborhoods. To make sure this provision applies to all types of residential development, staff has proposed including it in both Article 5, which is the development standards. This defines the design standards that would be applicable at site plan applications, so for multifamily residential, and then Article 6, which would be the land subdivision article of the land use code. So staff is recommending the following provision to be added in sections 5.3.12, access, and 6.6.1, lot layout, being that the establishment of gated communities as defined by this code is prohibited in all residential developments. No residential development shall include physical barriers or other controlled access that restricts vehicular or pedestrian access to streets, sidewalks, pathways, or trails within the proposed development. Controlled access may be permitted only for emergency vehicles or utility purposes and shall not limit public access. Staff did present this proposal to Planning Commission at their regular meeting last week, and they did express some concerns with how this provision might apply to individual lots and requested some additional clarity. So we did acknowledge that the intent was to maintain a open access for residential developments as a whole to support the safety, connectivity, and efficiency of those communities, not to prohibit homeowners from securing their own property either by fencing or other access control management. So any limitations on access to individual properties would be governed by the existing fence and wall standards of our land use code. However, based on that recommendation and feedback we received from Planning Commission, the highlighted area was added to provide further clarity. This states that the provision would not apply to a single-family dwelling on an individual lot where a fence encloses and/or a gate controls access to a private driveway, sidewalk, path, or yard serving that dwelling. It does not restrict public access to any street, sidewalk, pathway, or trail. So with this, we have also proposed a definition that would be alluded to within this provision, that a gated community is a residential development or portion of a residential development where vehicular or pedestrian access is restricted by gates, walls, fences, or other barriers, limiting entry to residents, invited guests, or authorized personnel. This includes areas where the streets or pathways are private and controlled in a way that prevents public use. So that concludes the portion with the gated communities. I'm not sure if you would like to hear them as a whole or...
Yeah, let's do all the presentations and then I'll take public comment.
Okay, moving along to landscaping. So I'm going to talk about water in Colorado, then dive into the Senate Bill 24-5 requirements. We'll then conclude with the proposed land use code language. So you all probably know, but Colorado is a headwater state. So we have 158 rivers, 156 of which originate within the state and then flow outward to supply water to 19 other states and Mexico. So only 2 rivers flow into the state from elsewhere. What's interesting is more water leaves our state than stays in it. Approximately 60% of the water consumed by downstream users is consumed by downstream users in other states. And Colorado has some unique supply challenges. So in a pretty historical agreement in 1922, the state agreed to divide up 5.4 trillion gallons. So this is supplied by the Colorado River Basin. And recently studies have found that the actual flow is 4 trillion. So there's this gap and discrepancy. So this agreement was revised in 2023, and then they'll be looking at it again next year. And so the state has decided that landscaping is a key piece of the puzzle in reducing municipal outdoor water use. Our landscapes are not aligned with what Colorado's climate and water supply can support. We live in an increasingly arid climate. We've experienced drought conditions across the state for several years, and outdoor water use ranges from 30 to 50% of our water use, most of which is going to outdoor irrigation. So this has really resulted in this accelerated movement where the state has decided it's really important for our cities and towns to switch to more water thrifty landscapes. And you can see this paradigm shift in recent legislation that's been approved by the state. So here are 6 bills, and you can see the progression of the legislation shows a very clear and expanding strategy. So we've moved from bills where we're encouraging the use of xeriscape to now mandating material limitations. And so what goes in the ground to replace those turf areas really matters. We don't want to just use rock and hardscape that radiates heat and doesn't give us an ecological benefit. The living plant material really contributes to our air quality, helps with stormwater management and wildlife habitat. It lowers our urban heat islands and beautifies our spaces. So how do we protect both water and then also these vibrant landscapes? And so everyone's the state is really trying to get folks to shift to water-wise landscape practices. So we plan for water efficiency, we choose appropriate plants for our area, ensure irrigation systems are running efficiently and effectively, and we require soil amendments and the use of mulch. So Senate Bill 24-5 is really focused on turf, and it limits non-functional turf, artificial turf, and invasive plant species in new developments and redevelopment projects on or after January 1st. So the bill was signed into law in 2024, and our code must be updated by the 1st of January. And the goal of this bill is not to eliminate all lawns, but to remove high water use turf where it serves no practical purpose. So some definitions: artificial turf is the synthetic material developed to resemble natural grass. Invasive species is not native to our state, has no natural competitors or predators in our area, and harms the state's economy and or environment. Turf is the continuous plant coverage consisting of grasses that, when regularly mowed, form a dense growth of leaf blades and roots. So diving in a little more, there's kind of two types of turf: functional turf and non-functional turf. Functional turf can be used for sports, recreation, community purposes such as playgrounds, stormwater measures, and sports fields. And then non-functional turf is that turf that really serves no practical purpose and is really just there for looks. Application. So this applies to street rights-of-way, medians, parking lots, transportation corridors, commercial, industrial, institutional land uses, and common interest landscaped areas. It does not apply to private residential lots. So the proposed code language, we had some conversations. The state bill gives towns and cities quite a bit of latitude in how we constitute or define redevelopment and what triggers to employ. So during the Planning Commission meeting, we had proposed some language that they felt perhaps was a little too burdensome for some businesses, and they wanted us to really kind of recalibrate our triggers. So we went out and surveyed some communities, looking to kind of ease up on some of our triggers for redevelopment, and we landed very in line with Broomfield. So really, sites for redevelopment are going to be triggered if they increase the gross floor area of the lot by 65% or more, construction of new parking or expansion of parking areas, and then modification of landscape areas of 50% or more. Aurora, Castle Rock, Edgewater, Colorado Springs, they're a little more aggressive in their approach, but they're also seeing a lot more redevelopment. For proposed, or we also clarified turf limitations. So state law allows turf in functional areas such as sport fields and active recreation areas. This was another hot topic during the Planning Commission meeting, and they recommended that we require low water turf species in all functional areas and prohibit the use of high water turf. And they wanted to allow for a limited exception process reviewed and approved by the community development director. So they felt it was really important to go beyond the state minimums and require more water conscious landscapes community wide. And they felt like we were missing the boat a little bit with the baseline state requirement. We also clarified artificial turf limitations in our proposed language. We added a prohibited plant list section. This will be expanded on later. And then we added some definitions. So we wanted to do a comprehensive landscape update, and we weren't able to get all those changes made by the time we needed to adopt this. But in 2026, we're going to bring a more robust landscape amendment to you all. So we're looking to create soil amendment policies, improve our tree policies, specifically tree preservation, create a robust plant list. We're kind of relying on some other people's plant lists. Revisit our living plant material coverage requirement, develop native seed establishment policies, and revisit our maintenance requirements, and then draft irrigation requirements that are designed to prioritize water conservation and water efficiency. And then we're really excited to partner with Resource Central this next year. We're going to be launching 2 programs, the lawn replacement program and Garden in a Box, and so those will be available to residents, and we'll have more information on those programs when we bring the next land use code amendment to you all. And with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, and before we take questions, this is an item slated for public hearing. I believe I have one person signed up, Mr. Bamford. Welcome, sir. Good to see you as always. You have 3 minutes.
Now I think it is. Okay. Mayor Oxmacher, members of the council, members of the staff, and fellow citizens interested in Timnath, including me. In my comments, I am approaching the subject from a general view based on 25 years of experience in building and marketing custom home subdivisions and gated communities. I've been told by Scott Robinson, White Wing inevitably is going to come up, and I'm trying to be generic and academic in my comments tonight, but there's an overlap of, obviously, we were postponed on October 14th. I'm trying to stay away from the particulars of it, but it's because of White Wing that this subject has become front and center in our conversations. But I've been told by Scott Robinson that since we have been in process for the last 5 years, that whatever happens with this code will not apply to White Wing. We'll have to continue to do that on its own merit, which is in process now. So we'll be getting to that. So since the application that White Wing has been pointed to as in the context of gated communities in Timnath, I have an interest in offering comments derived from my personal experience and my interest in seeing Timnath being a diverse and thriving town in the future. Gates are not the predominant driving force of White Wing subdivisions. Low residential density is. All White Wing subdivisions are in locations designated by municipal master plans for approximately 1 to 2 units per acre. That typically leads to secondary residences and other buildings and land uses for which homeowners desire a higher level of security and privacy, and production homes which are built at 3 or 6 or more units per acre. We have entitled and built 5 communities totaling 535 custom home building lots in the southeast Phoenix metro area. We have entitled and recorded the final plat for another subdivision in Arvada, Colorado of 37 custom home lots, which include gates. So all of these 572 custom home sites, which does not include Timnath Manor, are half to 1 acre in size and all are gated communities. My interpretation of discussions and concerns expressed by council members on this subject is that you are highly focused on responsibilities you have to all Timnath residents to safeguard and promote existing land use code and the comprehensive plan for connectivity throughout Timnath. With some study and ingenuity, we believe that there are ways to create subdivisions which can serve that connectivity throughout the town as well as provide the safety and security of gates. For example, hours of operation of the vehicular gates can be set so that they will remain open during daylight hours every day and close only from dusk to dawn. Having no walk gates and by repositioning fences to allow pedestrian and bicycles free access to all parks and interior streets of the community, both day and night, can be achieved. The requirements for the subdivision itself, not the town of Timnath, to be responsible for street maintenance of the gated community can be agreed upon. In short, my recommendation is not for a legislative action to eliminate gates from the future of Timnath residential areas, but instead empower the planning staff, the planning commission, and the council to continue to evaluate on a case-by-case basis those situations where gates may have little or no negative impact on provisions of the code or the comprehensive plan, and which can bring welcome and diverse housing opportunities to Timnath.
Thank you, Mr. Bamford. Nobody else has signed up, but is there anyone present that would like to speak on this? I see no one. Council will move to questions.
Yeah, so with the current ordinance proposed, the less water use grass, is that now part of that?
That is correct. The language in front of you reflects that
Great.
recommendation.
Perfect. I'm really looking forward to all the things you couldn't quite get to. They're close to my heart and I think close to the long-term financial success of the community and the residents within the community. We really need to deal more seriously than we have in the past with water usage in this high desert where, as Aaron has said numerous times, we're not the Midwest where it rains all summer long. In fact, if you look out at the snow we recently have, most of it didn't melt into the ground. Most of it evaporated. So I think what's coming up next year is very, very important, and I look forward to it, and I appreciate all your efforts. I will be supporting this.
You're good. Question that I have on the landscaping aspect of it. I'm for it. I think it's a great idea. My concern would be, and maybe the question to you is, what additional cost, labor, resources do we need to administer all things that come along with that? And when I say that is, when you have natural areas, speaking from our neighborhood, I see issues with growth, issues with landscapers maintaining them, and even more, rogue sprinklers. So I think in theory it's a great idea, and I want to see it happen. My concern is just when that type of landscape is put put down, it's not as easy as just laying sod and watering it. There tends to be some weeds, there tends to be bare spots, there tends to be complaints. So what potential increase in cost and or labor will the town have to take into that to administer this being done correctly?
So establishment periods are really important. You know, that's where you have to really stay on top of weeds and native areas, and that will help alleviate some of the long-term maintenance. Maintenance is going to be different for native versus turf. Maybe, you know, I can't really speak, but, you know, you're not mowing as much, but perhaps like the reseeding and, in terms of cost, other communities have done cost and maintenance analysis, and I think the conclusion is that upfront costs may be a little more, but the water savings and long-term costs, it levels out and perhaps is money saving in the long term.
I would say my biggest concern, again, I'll state this again, I'm in full support of it. I just think we need to think big picture on who is going to hold developers and or builders, whether it be commercial and or residential, responsible for. The last thing we want is just fields of blank and blah in the town. So I think just making sure, holding them accountable to do it properly and to maintain, to your point, you know, it's 3 to 5 years, right? For natural grass, it's normal, but that maintenance that has to occur every year, it's not just a one-time thing. So is that a code enforcement, whatever that looks like? I think long-term it'll work as long as it's monitored correctly.
Yeah, so once landscaping is installed, we do go out on site and do our landscape inspections. And then, you know, if it does become a problem, then it is kicked into the code enforcement bucket. But that is something we're going to be looking at for this next batch of code updates, is really looking at our maintenance and establishment criteria.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Maybe this was Bill's question, and I might have missed it. So the Planning Commission felt that, can you go back to that portion of it? So looking at this, so low water turf species, this is where you kind of had that explanation. So all functional areas. So we are now, in what we're approving tonight, we're looking at prohibiting high water use turf in everything that we're doing moving forward. Is that what we're approving tonight? Just to make sure I'm clear.
That was their recommendation. There is also an exception process. So if there are concerns about performance for the particular use of the turf, that can go through the exception process.
So, can you give me some examples? I just want to make sure I understand where staff came from versus maybe where Planning Commission came from. Like, why would staff bring that forward versus what maybe Planning Commission was looking at?
So we brought forward the state baseline requirement. So we wanted to be in alignment with what the state required. We don't have a plant list, and so we didn't want to prescribe perhaps low water use turf and not have a plant list to fall back on. And so that was kind of the rationale of why we didn't go that extra step. And it's a policy decision. Where do you want us to be on this water saving spectrum? And so Planning Commission did want to be a little more aggressive and go a step further on that spectrum.
Okay. And I guess my question is around, we're about to look at millions of dollars for parks coming up in our capital plan. I guess, how does this fit into our future capital plan in these parks when we look ahead for this? Does that affect our parks and planning in that aspect?
Yes, I mean, this bill will impact parks planning. Everything has to be planned according to the use of the area. So every landscape plan we review will have to state where it's functional, where it's not functional. So yes, there are implications on how we review these things.
So like, let's say we want to put in a baseball field. I'm just making sure I completely understand what we're approving tonight, like a baseball field, a soccer field. Are we prohibiting that tonight?
No, there's
Okay.
no prohibition on recreation areas. It's just we're going to be looking closer at the materials. And in order to use a high water turf, they would need to come with some, reasoning on why they need to go with that turf, as opposed to a low water Tahoma 31 or warm season turf.
Okay. And so when you say they, that includes the town, that includes metro districts, that includes everybody that's going to come forward. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I'm formulating a question. Yeah, I guess going off what Mayor Pro Tem said there, specifically with our future park facilities, I understand we could maybe grant ourselves a waiver and put in bluegrass if we wanted to, but has Tom or anyone else been able to provide any input on this and the impact that it might have? Yeah. Okay. Other questions? Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm very much looking forward to this. I think it's the right move. I agree with the Planning Commission. There are there are grass species that have been developed in the state of Colorado specifically for use in high desert. Now, whether they're the most appropriate for a high-use football field or a baseball field, that's a question I don't have the answer to, but there is an exception process in place in here if that's not the case. But my understanding is from a water use perspective, these low water turf species use about 20% of the irrigation requirements of Kentucky bluegrass or the other typical grass species that are used for lawns, and yet they look quite nice, and you mow them and walk on them, and yet they're using 20% of the water, which is an enormous long-term financial savings, both where we can use it as the town or where metro districts can use it or where residents could use it as an alternative. So I very much, obviously there'll be some learning that goes on here and some experimentation, but I think it's the right direction for the town to go, and I'm very much in favor of it.
So procedurally, I guess, if folks do not have any more questions of staff.
Yeah, sorry.
And if you do, go ahead.
Yeah.
But if not, I would propose that someone make a motion and then we move to discussion. And if there's a desire to talk about whether or not there's a need for an amendment, I think that would be the appropriate venue to do that.
So Logan, just to make sure, we have to put something as a town in place by January 1st. That's why this is coming now, right? So that's what the state has put forward, so that's why it's here tonight, just to make sure.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you. I just want to clarify that. Thank you.
This time I've asked, is there a motion to approve the proposed land use code amendments?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
With that, we'll move to discussion, including if anyone wants to ponder any amendments, beginning with Councilmember Jenkins.
I'm very happy with the amendment, or with the proposed land use code changes. I think the water-related components of this are just the beginning. Having lived in another state with very high water use restrictions, we're hardly even scratching the surface. And it's going to come with the, with climate change, whether you believe it or not. Obviously, 5.7 trillion gallons of water. Now the river only produces 4 trillion gallons. Obviously, there's a change. So I think the restrictions are going to be even more, and the cost of water is going to go up. And for this town to get ahead of it a little bit, I think is a really smart thing to do.
Councilmember Holt?
Okay, so I'm torn here because I'm in support. I see the need, the desire. My concern is, and I think it was hinted towards by Mayor Pro Tem and Mayor Axmacher, the parks concerns me. I think we build parks for people to have full use. I think grass in those areas sometimes is the only area in a neighborhood that's filled with sidewalks and streets. And I think limiting Kentucky bluegrass or soft grass, or I call it soccer ball grass, that you can kick a soccer ball without having it bump all over the place. That would be my concern, is having to designate every single area as a park or as a sports field, which we all know it won't. And I think of Councilmember Jenkins' backyard, the retention area that is all bluegrass for the most part, but is turned into a soccer field and turned into a flag football practice facility because there isn't enough park space for people to use. So that would be my only concern, is limiting the access to parks and rec for using what may be higher water necessity grass. I'm all for having this in commercial areas that, in between the concrete and the rocks, it's, this is a lot more, we don't need Kentucky bluegrass everywhere, but I think in specific areas. So I don't know how that would be amended, but I think specific to the parks area or in neighborhoods that are deemed, whether it be pocket parks or neighborhood parks, that it still allows for softer, more water-needy grass, really for the access of kids and sports and play and all the things that we like to get outside and do.
Yeah, the question is, there is a waiver process here that allows for high water use grass if that's what's needed in order to make the functional area functional. And I would argue, without knowledge of whether or not these newer low water use grasses might not be appropriate, or they might be appropriate. We don't know. I think it's incumbent upon us to figure that out and put the right grass in place for the use that it's going to have. So if it's a soccer field and it turns out that the available grasses that are considered low water use don't work, aren't functional for that purpose, then they shouldn't be used. We don't want to restrict our ballparks, soccer, whatever. But I do think it's incumbent upon us to try to figure out the lowest water use for the intended purpose, rather than just say, we're going to put Kentucky bluegrass every place where somebody wants to kick a ball. I think that's a mistake. I do want functional sports areas, and I think with the language as it's written, with a waiver process in place, we can figure it out. And Tom will come to us and tell us, hey, guys, this grass ain't working. And we'll go, okay, well, put something in that works, but we need to figure it out. And it will save the town an enormous amount of money in the long run if we do it right. So I'm still in favor of the amendment as it's presented with the waiver process in place, so we can make the right decisions. And maybe down the road, once we learn more, we can carve out more specifics in a plant list that they plan on developing in the next year that could designate certain specific things once we have a better understanding of what's appropriate for the specific use. We could have a recommended plant list so people don't have to do their own experimentation. That's my feeling about it. Let's be a little scientific about it, and we have enough leeway in the proposal to make those determinations. At least that's my opinion. So,
Mayor Pro Tem, your thoughts?
Yeah, so you know, Councilman Member Jenkins, you know I'm in support of this. I'm in support of, I've been talking about this for 10 years, and this is the right direction. This is the right way to go. Experimenting costs money. That's my concern. If we have to rip something up, if we have to tear it apart and we have to redo it, it's going to come at a cost. That's my concern at this point is if we have to redo something, if we have to redo a park, if we have to go back and try again or replant something, it's going to come at a cost. And the ROI on this would be far out than longer than it'd take the ROI on doing it right with pointing ourselves and being a little more taking a precautionary step forward first. So I'm just a little concerned about that. I know we have to put something forward tonight. And that's where I'm like, I want to point ourselves in the right direction more than I want to fire, aim, shoot and go. And then, so I think I want, like if I were to consider this, what I would think is, can we put something forward tonight and then get more input, like from maybe from Parks and Rec? Can we look at long term? I do have concerns about it being too restrictive, and I do want to conserve water. So I'm just not sure what our process can be to come back and amend it later. Like if we put something forward tonight, can we come back and amend it at the beginning of the year to say, here's some feedback, here's some research we've done, here's what other, if we get feedback from Tom of how we can move forward, because this is the biggest part of our community is our parks right now. We've got more open space than any other community. We've got, I look at some of our things that makes Timnath unique is our open space. So I want to do it right. And so I want to respect also what the Planning Commission has put forth and the work staff has done. So I think that I'm fine maybe rolling it back to where it is. And then if we have to roll it forward, I think I'd rather do it that way and then roll it forward based on more feedback and understanding from all that feedback from more with staff of why. But I could go either way, but I want to be able to roll forward or roll back and come back to it once there's more feedback.
Yeah. I, like you all, very much share the goal of long-term water sustainability and wherever practical, utilizing a low water usage turf. but I'm concerned that we're rushing this. I'm concerned that we haven't even consulted with our internal turf experts, much less done external research. And I understand we have planning commission members with knowledge. I understand we have council members with knowledge. Given that we do have something coming to us in early '26, my preference would be to adopt what the state requires, which is low water usage on non-functional, but allowing for essentially the status quo on functional. Pass that this evening, and then utilize the process that's coming to us on the other plant lists to maybe get a little bit better educated about this. The worst case scenario is we're 3 months later in adopting this, right? But I would hate to put something in play and then find out that we really haven't researched this. That's my concern.
You know, I could be okay with that, as long as there was direction to staff to really dig into this as soon as reasonable, to come back with information about what grasses are appropriate for what uses, and make that an initial part of the recommended plant lists. I'm sure the native grass areas are pretty well worked out. I mean, if you look at Trailside, they've done a beautiful job with their native grasses, and over multiple years, and it looks fantastic. I live right across the street from it. I walk my dog over there all the time. They look great. So I think the native grass piece is probably pretty easy because it's been done successfully in a number of communities, and we could come up with that list. But I take your point. Let's not make a mistake. On the other hand, let me just remind you, once you put Kentucky bluegrass sod down at a very high expense to put it in, you're stuck watering that sucker at a high rate and a high cost forever, until the rates get so high that you go, gee, you know what? Our ROI on replacing this with a low water use grass is 3 years. Let's do it. Or whatever, 5 years. So I think if we wait 3 months to implement a specifics on this, nobody's going to be putting sod down over the winter. So I'm not worried about that. But I would like to see feedback early in next year, so when it comes time for grasses to start going in the spring and summer, we're in a position to make intelligent recommendations. So I'll vote with an amendment as long as we have that direction to staff.
So, Logan, am I correct that if we struck out what's under 3, just A and B, would that return us to the state requirement? Or do we need to do additional crafting?
So, yeah, so if we kept D and then perhaps added, we could go back to A and B from the first reading. So that lists any property containing a principal use that is listed as a public, institutional, civic, commercial, or industrial use in Table 4.1, and any property within a common interest community as defined in the state section that is owned and maintained by a unit owners association, and C, any portion of a street right-of-way, median transportation corridor, or parking lot. Non-functional turf is prohibited on A, B, and C. So I would say let's go back to that language.
Sounds like Councilmember Jenkins would be supportive, but is the rest of council supportive of a friendly amendment to that effect?
Yeah.
So if there is no objection, we would ask that friendly amendment be reflected. And I suppose come with the note that, you know, the sincere desire is to consider this and be well educated on this when those other amendments come. I think council's thought is we're intrigued and supportive. We just want to do it right.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Investigate with stakeholders, internal and external, with that, to know more.
So with that friendly amendment reflected, I will ask if council members have any other comments on either the grass amendment or the gated community amendment update. I will make one comment as it pertains to gated communities, which is it is my position based on the hearing that we had a month ago or so that our comprehensive plan currently does prohibit gated communities, although it doesn't expressly say that. I think that as we parsed through all of the various subsections of it, that currently our comprehensive plan, as it states, does prohibit gated communities. I appreciate staff bringing this amendment forward because I think what adding it to the land use code does is provides clarification and provides notice to anyone that might be considering this in the future that you know, this is a firm position. And so I appreciate that coming forward from staff, and I intend to vote in favor of revised land use code. Any other comments? So with that, all those in favor of adopting the land use code amendments with the friendly amendment related to water signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, nay? Land use code amendments pass 4-0. We will now move on to our regular business items, beginning with Resolution 71, Series 2025, a resolution approving levying general property taxes for the year 2025 to help defray the costs of government for the town of Timnath for the 2026 budget. Ms. Gagliari.
This resolution is to set the mill levy for 2026 collections based on 2025 assessed values. The budget that you just adopted proposed a constant mill levy at 6.688 mils. The mill levy has not been increased since 2006. The mill levy will generate about $775,000 in the general fund and a little over $1 million in the TDA collected through the TIF. There are some changes coming down the pike that will impact mill levies in future years. So in 2027 and 2028, the commercial assessed value percentages change from 27% to 25%, which could result in up to a 7% decrease in commercial property. And if there's any increase in the valuation, that'll offset that 7%. So it's something we're monitoring. Also, the residential assessment rate gets a little complicated. Assuming a 5% growth, the residential assessed value percentages change from 6.15% to 6.7%, minus 10% of the first $700,000, or 6.8%. If the growth, yeah. So you can imagine that's a little complicated to factor in. The commercial is a little easier to come to a clear percentage. It's something we'll monitor next year as we look at our mill levy and our assessed values. The property owner impacts of this mill levy result in, for example, an $800,000 home, it's $358 a year. If you're looking at a calculation, that's $45 per $100,000 value. The impact of a $5 million commercial building is $9,000 a year, and you can equate that to $1,800 per $1 million value. And with that, I'll take any questions.
So Yeah, just to be clear, we're not having any change in the mill levy.
Correct.
Just curious, when was the last time we had a change in the mill levy?
2006.
2006 was,
Mhm.
okay.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to approve the resolution approving levying general property taxes for year 2025 to help defray the cost of government for the town of Timnath, Colorado for the 2026 budget?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, I think it's great. The mill levy's staying the same. We have other taxes that are going up in January, and who knows what the state legislature's going to do with taxation and in 27 and 28. So I'm glad you guys are watching that and looking at what the impact will be both for residential and commercial. So I'm in favor of this.
Mayor Pro Tem Wagner? You know, I'll just offer one comment, which is I am always floored every time I'm reminded how little money the town collects through property taxes. $358 a year, and, you know, most of the folks living in an $800,000 home are paying $8,000, $10,000, $12,000 a year in taxes, and that money is going all sorts of places, but it's not coming to the town. And I just always want to remind folks of that. Any other comments? All right, then all those in favor of the resolution approving the mill levy signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, nay? Passes unanimously. Resolution number 72, Series 2025, a resolution approving First Amendment to the amended and restated Master Subdivision Improvement Agreement for Timnath Landing. Ms. Steffel.
Thank you. So this is something we've been working on very closely with the developer and landowner for a few months, and even going back even further than that. So when they first established the Timnath Landing subdivision on filing number 1, the town approved a subdivision improvement agreement, and that was in 2017. Since that time, the town has now approved filings 2 through 8, and now today to filing 9 of the Timnath Landings subdivision. And each time as they approve another phase of the development, there are public improvements and cost estimates that go with that they are required in terms of the requirements for the developer. So the way the subdivision improvement agreement was set up was so that it could be amended over time, so that as each phase of development was proceeding, we would be adding a map and list of those public improvements and the estimated costs of those public improvements, which then lead to bond requirements to ensure that those public improvements are completed. So the entire purpose of this agreement is to identify the public improvements that are the developer's responsibility and to set forth the process for completing those public improvements. Some of them in this particular agreement are being performed by the town with payments from the developer. Now, so this amendment brings everything up to date from 2017 until, well, right before you approved filing number 9. And so what we're doing is we are substituting out the map that shows the phases of the project developments from the original proposal, which was 7 phases, to now the 10 phases that you've seen in your filing. In your filings. It also adds those lists of public improvements in the map showing the public improvements to Exhibit D. In addition, we added some additional performance requirements for the developer to add some dates and to make sure that there is some accountability to make sure that they are completed in a timely manner. We did add in that the Aiken lateral relocation and this rec center / neighborhood park are considered public improvements, which allows them to have financing by their metropolitan district. And we also added in a time frame for completion of that neighborhood park and rec center, knowing that that's something that was originally shown on filing number 4, something that the residents are waiting for. And so we have now a requirement, and there's a typo on there, it's not before the building permits, but they have to be completed before the certificate of occupancy for the 30th home in filing number 9. So the plan is that when they start filing number 9, they're going to start on that rec center and that neighborhood park, and that it has to be completed by the time the 30th house is completed. In addition, a big portion of this agreement relates to the improvements that are required to the Timnath Parkway. And we updated those because changes have been made in the design of the Timnath Parkway since this was originally approved. We added a new roundabout at County Road 40, which is also known as Bus Grove. And we additionally added the cost that the town has spent to date on the portions of Timnath Parkway that have been completed, because by agreeing with the developer on those costs, it avoids future disputes as to what the town has paid to date. So we've reached an agreement with the developer on the costs, the actual cost the town has paid for Phase 1A, 1B, 1C, and a portion of Phase 3 of that Timnath Parkway development. And the reason why that's important is because the developer is required to pay for 50% of the cost to Timnath Parkway, and there's going to be a reconciliation coming in the future at the end of all of those completions of those improvements to Timnath Parkway. Another just kind of small thing is we allowed the town to add to plant native seed mix along the roads where the irrigation system has not yet been installed, because it required that sod be laid down while that grass be planted. That doesn't make sense if the irrigation system is not yet in place, because we're doing the roads before the neighboring properties have gotten to their point of development. We also added that outside payment date for the developer parkway reconciliation payment. It was already calculated according to a formula, but this puts the actual date in it. Again, it just avoids future disputes, that the final reconciliation will be by August 28th, 2029. We also put in some provisions to talk about what will happen if the town and the developer don't agree on the town's final costs at that point, so that there is a process to go through, and also put in a requirement of a security for the reconciliation payment. So the way the payment for the Timnath Parkway basically works is that there are fees paid along with the final plat approval. There's a requirement to pay a fee per unit in each final plat. And that gets to the point that the developer has paid approximately the $5 million to date, according to the already approved filings. There'll be another large payment for filing number 9, another large payment for filing 10, and then there will still be a reconciliation payment at the end. That's the difference between 50% of the town's actual costs and those fees paid per date. And that's the reconciliation payment that comes in 2029 at the outset. Okay, other things we needed to bring this up to speed. This is a lot of detail, but this is a lot of blood, sweat, and tears on behalf of ourselves and the developer. Okay, we updated the requirements for the Bus Grove Phase 1 portion because the design has changed about what the town wants to do. So instead of having the developer make that actual construction, instead we're requiring a payment in lieu of construction in the amount of $1 million, which is equivalent to the estimated cost of what the developer was originally required to construct at that location. But instead of the original design, what we're now planning to do is to make a connection between Main Street and the roundabout at Timnath Parkway and Bus Grove. And so that connection is going to cost more than $1 million, but the developer will contribute $1 million towards that, which is equivalent, again, to what their original expectations were. And then the original subdivision improvement agreement also stated that the town would organize a general improvement district to help pay for some of the extraordinary offsite costs of these road improvements. As you know, the town has now done that, but we just updated the reference to the town so that the maximum levy is 15 mils, as it can be adjusted per changes in the method of calculating the assessed valuation. That just reflects the ordinance you've already approved about the updates to the mill levy. We deleted some unnecessary restrictions regarding the artisan property now that we have a proposed use of it for the recreation center to just avoid any additional restrictions when we go forward with that use. We added a time frame for the requirement for the developer to construct their portion of the T-Rock Trail, which is going to be constructed with filing number 9 on the property, on the developer's property within filing number 9, that would be completed no later than December 31, 2027, because that's obviously a key portion of our PROS master plan and something that was very important to our Public Works Department. Finally, we incorporated the well mitigation requirements that, again, have already been approved by Planning Commission as a part of a condition of approval of a site plan for the Timnath Lakes Augmentation Pond. That was approved in 2020, but we're putting it into this agreement. So lots and lots of changes, lots and lots of updates, but again, the point is to bring us up to speed and up to date from 2017 through right now, and to make sure that all of the developer public improvement requirements are in one place in this agreement. The developer is here, and as you know, has already spoken, and you can address any questions to them, or they can make any comments. And this is not a public hearing, but you can address any questions to myself or to the development team or to your Public Works Department and Planning Department, or Finance, because we all worked on this agreement together.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for your work. Is there anything you wish to add to all that detail?
No, just a thank you to Carolyn and staff.
Council, questions on this agreement?
I appreciate the thorough, detailed presentation.
Very well. Is there amendment to approve the resolution approving the first amendment to amend and reinstated master subdivision improvement agreement for Timnath Landing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion, Councilmember Holt?
No, I'll echo what Councilmember Jenkins said. Very thorough. Applause to everybody involved. Thank you as well, developer. It's good to see some of the stuff come to fruition too when it comes to rec center and putting things in motion. I know what that's like as a resident to hope and wish for something for many filings, but I also know the costs associated with it as a developer too. So good to see that coming to fruition. Like I said earlier, it's one of the flagship neighborhoods, I think, in this neighborhood, or in this town. So I think all that works. And again, kudos to the town for getting this all wrapped up and put it all together.
Councilmember Jenkins.
Yeah, I'm glad you put everything into a current document so you don't have to refer back. I will make a note that I actually was at the October 24th, 2017 council meeting where this was approved. So it's great to see it, updated and come together, and look forward to 9 and 10.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, I'm going to be voting in favor of this tonight. I think it's an absolutely necessary step, and I think having these type of, written down for deadlines, and especially to Councilmember Holt's point of kind of some key things for residents as well so that they can find them, is absolutely necessary. So I appreciate staff taking the time to do it.
Yes, I concur and add my thanks. Very much appreciated. Anything else? Yeah, then all those in favor of approving the agreement signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, nay? It passes unanimously.
Thank you.
So, council members, we have one agenda item left, which is an executive session. What I'm going to propose is that we recess the main council meeting for the moment and take care of the rest of our business, and then come back to the executive session. That way we don't have to kick everyone out and then have them wait and invite them back. So if there's no objection, the regular town council meeting will stand temporarily in recess. Why don't we take just a quick 5, and then we'll convene the other 2 meetings? Oh, nice. What kind of numbers? Ooh. Nice. Yeah. That's good. You too, sir. Yes.
You mean the state of town, and then I just watched the video from last year. Is that kind of a similar format to what you're interested in doing?
Yes.
Okay.
And And I think that's what Slate will probably be on board with. The person that spearheaded that last year isn't with them. So we'll get their thoughts. Perfect. Thank you. Have a great night.
Man, a few words. The mayor's like, tell us about it. He's like, mm-mm.
It's free advertising, buddy.
Nope. Oh, well, have you been to their other ones? No. They own Young's. That's Young's? So not the Young's by like Markley, but it's another Young's. It's got like a couple more, like I would call them fast casual places. Yeah. Yep. They're good. I remember when I first moved here, I lived like over like Elizabeth and Taft, when they had one at like Drake and Taft. No, or is it Drake or? Yeah, Young's Cafe, the original. It's been in the same spot for 30 years. Right there in that little strip mall that like, you wonder how it survives. Just like hair salons and Dungeons and Dragons layers. Have you been there? Oh, it's so good. Their pho is so yeah, their pho is so good. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like anytime I can go, I go. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It's not. I wish it was. Oh. Yeah. Well, like I go in there and it's been the same before since I've been 6. Same fish too. Those fish have been living there for 22 years. I'm like, why update it? Because you haven't updated your recipes, which I'm fine because it tastes the same. It's amazing. Same round tables. Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, that's fine. The pilgrims and the Indians ate at. You didn't mess with it. It's amazing. You know what I was very sad to see go away? El Burrito. Officially closed. That's a staple. It wasn't necessarily the best food, but it was a staple in Old Town. Well, it was a cornerstone, you know? Big time. The old way. Big time. Almost like a villain thing. Every once in a while. Let's not get but it's not necessarily a mirror, right? Sometimes even a blind squirrel finds a nut. That's true. True. It does. Good smelling sense. I would like to see more artwork and stuff on the budget. And the OPP. You ready for it? All right, if I buckle in. Let's do it. All right.
All right, council has returned, and I will convene the Tuesday, December 9th meeting of the Timnath Landing General Improvement District Board meeting. Peters Garcia.
Chairperson Robert Oxbacher.
Present.
Co-chair Luke Wagner.
Here.
Board member Jeremy Holt.
Here.
Board member Bill Jenkins.
Here.
Board member Lisa Lake.
4 members are present. Board member Lake's absence is expected. Any requests to amend the agenda? I will open it up now for public comment. No one has signed up. Is there anyone present that would like to address the board? Seeing no one, we'll move to the consent agenda, consisting of 2 items: approval of the November 18th, 2025 Timnath GID minutes and resolution number GID 7, Series 2025, a resolution approving a second supplemental to intergovernmental agreement regarding funds for the Timnath Landing General Improvement District. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as read?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, second and third. Any discussion? Well, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, nay? Consent agenda passes unanimously. On to our public hearings. 5A, Ordinance GID 1, an ordinance authorizing the issuance and sale of the district's limited tax general obligation bonds, Series 2026A, and subordinate limited tax general obligations bonds, Series 2026B. Ms. Gagliari.
Good evening. This is the second reading and public hearing regarding the GID bond issuance. The GID was initially established primarily to reimburse the developer for extraordinary public improvements as part of the development. The total estimated improvement costs that are eligible are $14.5 million. The developer has paid approximately $5 million of that to date. The district is authorized to issue up to 15 mill levies for operations and debt, as adjusted per changes in method of calculating the assessed valuation. The developer approached the town earlier this year seeking to maximize reimbursement and to include amounts paid to date in addition to anticipated payments that will be made for filings 9 and 10 in early 2026. The bond structure is estimated to generate about $6.4 million in net proceeds. The financing will be consistent of 2 bonds, 1 senior lien bond and 1 cash flow bond in the amounts of $4.6 million and $3.4 million. The district does anticipate a second bond issuance, again to try and reach that maximum $14.5 million in the future once the development gets further along in the build out. The structure prioritizes the town's administrative cost reimbursement prior to the debt issuance. The plan is to issue bonds in the first quarter 2026. The Finance Committee met on November 17th to review the financing plan and recommended council approval. Again, the first reading was held on November 11th, and some actions that the GID board, the town, and the TDA board have passed in preparation for this was amending the GID, establishing the ordinance to allow fluctuations in state assessed value changes, the TDA, IGA to share back 100% of the TIF revenues collected, and then supplement to IGA between the town and the GID for administrative cost reimbursement. We do have Dalton Kelly with Butler Snow, who is our bond counsel, and Melissa Buck with UMB, who is our municipal financial advisor, if there's any questions. And with that, I'll leave it up for questions.
And before we move to that, this is set for a public hearing, so I'll now ask if there's anyone that wishes to speak on this. No one has signed up. See no one, so we'll move on to questions.
Yeah, so could you go back to the previous slide? So both the bonds, Series A and Series B, are anticipated to generate 6.45 net proceeds.
Correct.
The total cost is a little over $8 million. So that's like, what, $1.5 million worth of expenses. So my question is that typical to have that high of a percentage of costs associated with? That doesn't include the interest payments that are going to have to be made in the future.
It does include some capitalized interest and cost of issuance fees. And Melissa Buck can speak a little bit more to that, but it does include those 2 components.
It does?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Hi. So Melissa Buck with UMB. I would say that those costs are pretty typical for this type of financing. The difference between the total par amount as well the total par amount and then the amount that would be available to reimburse the developer. In there, you will have, as Lisa mentioned, some capitalized interest, cost of issuance, as well as funding a reserve fund. But that's all very common for these financings.
Great, thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to approve the ordinance authorizing the issuance and sale of the district's limited tax general obligation bond series 2026A and subordinate limited tax general obligations bond series 2026B?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion.
No, I mean, Finance Committee has met on this. We've dove into this in pretty darn good detail. No further questions.
Yeah, I'm good.
Mayor Pro Tem? All right. Very well. Then all those in favor of the ordinance signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. Ordinance passes unanimously. On to item 5B, Resolution GID 08, Series 2025. Resolution summarizing expenditures and revenues for each fund and adopting a budget and appropriating sums of money to each fund in the amounts and for the purposes set forth herein for the district for the calendar year beginning the first day of January 2026 and ending on the last day of December 2026. Ms. Gagliari.
Thank you. This budget, it just has a lot more to it than you're typically used to seeing. Included in this budget is property tax collections and intergovernmental revenues from the TDA for the TIF collections. Those two gross to approximately $400,000 that would be available for debt service and reimbursement to the town. It includes a developer advance and associated capital expenses of $5.9 million, and that's based on our estimated payment for filings 9 and 10. We anticipate net bond proceeds of $6.8 million, a developer reimbursement of $6.4 million, debt service payment of $200,000, and transfer to the town of $150,000, and that includes prior year administrative costs that have accumulated of approximately $100,000, and then $50,000 for the 2026 costs. This resolution also authorizes this ordinance also authorizes, no, it is a resolution, sorry, does authorize the mill levy of 15 mills. The impact of a homeowner of an $800,000 home is $738 per year, or $92 per $100,000 value. The impact on commercial, valued at $5 million, is approximately $20,000 per year and $4,000 per $1 million value. And with that, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Before we go to questions, says have an opportunity for a public hearing. No one has signed up, but is there anyone present that would like to speak? Seeing no one, questions? Then all those in favor of the resolution as previously read, adopting.
Do you want us to move?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. Is there a motion?
I'll move to move. I'll move.
The motion before the board is to approve the resolution adopting the budget. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the GID budget signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, nay?
That's your 100 tonight.
It is approved unanimously. Item 6A, Resolution GID 9, Series 2025, a resolution approving advance and reimbursement agreement with CAC Timnath LLC. Stephanie.
Thank you. So this is kind of follow-up to the approval of the bonds that we approved earlier this evening. And this is an advance and reimbursement agreement between the GID and the developer CAC Timnath LLC, and it provides that. What it provides. Okay, so the agreement sets forth the parameters about for the developer being reimbursed for the extraordinary improvement costs per the SAA. The SIA defined what those extraordinary improvement costs were, consisting of Timnath Parkway improvements, 50%, the improvements to some box elder floodplain mitigation improvements, harmony improvements at 50% of those harmony costs, and Bus Grove improvements. So it sets forth which improvements are eligible for reimbursement, bringing the estimated costs up to date, consistent with the amendment to the subdivision improvement agreement that was approved by town council. It also acknowledges the amounts that have been paid to date by the developer and acknowledges the future improvements or future reimbursements that we're expecting in terms of the developer making payments to the town for the public improvements that are the extraordinary public improvements that will be later reimbursed to the developer when the GID issues debt. The current debt that you've approved, the Series 2026, is only expected to reimburse some of the developer costs. Some of the costs it should cover most of the costs or all of the costs paid to date, and some of the costs that will be paid through fees for filing number 9. But there is an expectation that the GID would be issuing a future debt and a requirement that the GID will use good faith efforts to issue debt to maximize the proceeds eligible for reimbursement as long as it can be supported by the anticipated mill levy revenue and within voter approval limitations. Okay, that is it. I'm open for any questions.
All right, any questions? This does not have a public hearing. All right, is there a motion?
So moved.
And this would be a motion to approve the resolution approving advance and reimbursement agreement with CAC Timnath LLC.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, nay. Resolution passes unanimously. And with that, the GID will stand adjourned.
Thank you all so much. Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I will now call to order the Tuesday, December 9th meeting of the Timnath Development Authority. Here's Garcia, will you take the roll?
Yes. Chairperson Robert Oxmacher,
Present.
Co-Chair Luke Wagner,
Here.
Board Member Jeremy Holt,
Here.
Board Member Bill Jenkins,
Here.
Board Member Lisa Lake.
All right, the 4 of us are still here. Ms. Lake is expectedly not here. Any request to amend the agenda? Is there anyone present that would like to make public comment? I see no one. The consent agenda consists of one item, approving the October 28th, 2025 TDA meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Or a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, nay. Consent agenda passes unanimously. Moving on to our public hearings, beginning with 5A, Resolution TDA 02 Series 2025, a resolution of the Timnath Development Authority summarizing expenditures and revenues and adopting a budget, appropriating sums of money to the various funds and spending agencies in the amount of and for the purpose set forth for the calendar year beginning on the first day of January 2026 and ending on the last day of December 2026. Ms. Gagliari.
Thank you. The 2026 budget presented was included in the work session in October. But just to summarize some key points, it includes property and sales tax that should say TIF of $22.8 million. It considers an increased box elder payment of $1.2 million to retire future obligations of the authority prior to expiration. So we were approached by the box elder authority to consider this. Nothing's been finalized yet, but we do have the funds available should we choose to do that. And all that would mean is we would make this payment and then we wouldn't be on the hook for anything else down the road. It includes debt service payments of $9.3 million, and then it includes transfer of sales tax to the town of $9.1 million and $5 million for eligible capital projects. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Mine is just on the recommendation for the box elder. What do we have left? 3 more years?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'm assuming by them asking, it might be in need of it, because if we've got it, are we gaining any interest, or is it beneficial for us to hold on to it until it's due versus
There-
giving it away?
There would be some savings by prepaying.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Fair enough.
Thank you. We will now move to public hearing. No one has signed up. Is there anyone present that would like to speak? Seeing no one, are there any other questions? Very well. Is there a motion then to approve the TDA budget?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I like the idea of saving money by prepaying.
Sounds great. Any other comments? All those in favor of approving the budget signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, nay. TDA budget passes unanimously. On to item 5B, resolution number TDA 03, Series 2025, resolution amending the budget for the Timnath Development Authority for the calendar year, January 2025 through December 2025.
This should be relatively straightforward. We need a supplemental appropriation for approximately $18,000 to cover administrative expenses, and this is primarily due to legal costs that will exceed the adopted budget. And I'll answer any questions.
And I'll open it up for public hearing. No one has signed up, no one is present. And so we will close public hearing. Any questions? Is there a motion to approve the amended budget for the TDA 2025?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Nope, got to pay our bills.
All those in favor of approving the amended budget for 2025 signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed, nay? Very well. Our last item is a proposed executive session. Is there a motion to move to executive session pursuant to Section 246402(4)B and E CRS for conferences with an attorney for the town for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions related to the lawsuit between the Town Development Authority versus Timnath Lands LLC versus the Town of Timnath, and for determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators regarding possible settlement.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of moving to executive session signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, we will move to executive session. I'll ask to confirm that we are no longer streaming. All right, we are back on the record in the TDA, having emerged from executive session. That was our last TDA business item, so the TDA will stand in recess. And then I will reconvene our regular town council meeting. We have one agenda item remaining there, which is an executive session. So is there a motion to move to executive session pursuant to section 24-64024B and E CRS for conferences with an attorney for the town for the purposes of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions related to the lawsuit between Town Development Authority versus Timnath Lands LLC versus the Town of Timnath, and for determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators regarding possible settlement.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of moving to executive session signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, nay. All right, we will now move to executive session. We are now back on the record in the Timnath regular town council meeting. We have emerged from executive session, and we have no more agenda items. So the town council will stand in recess.